music no one can ever refuse it. Pulsating, vibrating, reggae, reggae, reggae. Very sky, rock, steady, mental, a quadrillion.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is the Real Stuff Podcast, and today is Tuesday, and we have a special guest. His name is John King, a senator from Barbados.
Hi, guys.
And we
Thank
also
you.
have with us Flavius, our co-host. So John was previously the Minister of Culture in Barbados, and now a senator. But I'll just ask John to talk about himself a little, and we'll get right into it.
All right. So I've been an entertainer for most of my life. I started out as a young 18-year-old in calypso music. Did a number of recordings over the years. Wrote songs for many people. Performed with some of the best entertainers you could find, not only in Barbados but across the Caribbean and internationally also. But a couple of years ago, in fact 2018 to be exact, I thought it was about time to get involved in politics in a complete different way. We sang about it for many years and discussed issues and all that, but I was challenged by another Calypsonian by the name of Gypsy from Trinidad. He said to me, you know, John, we, the Calypsonians, we sing a good game, but we don't get involved at the political level to try to make a difference. And that was, you know, more than enough encouragement for me to get involved. And I did that, was successful in winning a seat. And, you know, we had 3 years as Minister of Culture and Sport. Very, very, very lucrative in terms of the learning curve of how government works and what it can do and what it cannot do. And it's always interesting when you get the opportunity to be on the inside. A lot of the things that you might criticize on the outside, once you're in, then you have a better understanding of how it works. So now I'm in the Senate. I didn't bother to rerun, you know, try for re-election when they went back in 2022. But I'm still in the Senate making my contribution. And yeah, one of the songs which I wrote, which became very popular across the Caribbean, was a song called How Many More? And this particular song looked at this very situation that we're going to be talking about today, the violence, especially amongst young men across the Caribbean. And it still is very popular today. I mean, even though I don't do as much singing as I used to, every now and again, someone calls me and asks me to come, you know, to sing at some event or something, you know. So I still go out and do it because, you know, that's where I started and that's where my heart will always be. But I think the message in the music is the most important part. And it's important that those of us who have benefited from life in the Caribbean should get in this fight against this violence, because we're losing too many of our young men. Unfortunately, there seems or there appears to be no foreseeable solution in the near future. But I think it took us a while to get here, and we need to go back to some of the basics. But that's me in a nutshell. I'll let you continue from there.
Well, let's hear a little of this song. Yeah, we know.
Do you have it, Flavors?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. I guess when it comes up, a lot of people will probably not think that this is the same person.
Yeah.
Imagine that was released in 1996.
Okay. I thought I had it queued up.
Well, I'm seeing your screen.
Yeah, coming up. You can go ahead, Courtney. Keep speaking.
Yeah, yes, John. You mentioned and talk about the violence among our youth, and you know, it's very really critical right now, it's at a critical stage. But there's this perception that crime really starts because of poverty.
Mm.
And I can really come to that understanding because we have seen that people who have been living in remote places who are really poverty stricken and there's no crime.
Yeah. Yeah. It's poverty plays a role. We can't deny that. Because if a person's back is against the wall, there's no jobs, there's basic necessities that they can't have, and there's no access to progress, so to speak, then survival mode kicks in, and one must survive. And I'll use a phrase that was used by Malcolm X many years ago: by any means necessary. That becomes part and parcel of the drive for survival. Now, do we condone this kind of thing? No, we don't. But I think we need sometimes to step back and look at all of the varying facets and things that contribute to where we are now. Like I always say, there's no one thing that you can say.
Are we hearing the song now?
Yeah. You get to go?
Are we hearing?
No, I'm not hearing it on my end.
I'm not hearing it on my end either.
But you need to press. You
didn't press a play.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, it's playing, but I need to get it out to you.
Oh.
Yeah, so another aspect of this violence too, because we know that guns play a big role in this present day violence. And just imagining how comes these expensive guns.
Blood running in the streets like water, a gun in hand knows no friend. No, sing woman that's selling death in my land. Get rid of the souls of
yeah,
children. My plea, can you tell me when?
I'm hearing it twice.
Okay.
How many more must carry this load? Oh, how many more? How many more? How many more? Before we trot down Zion Road. How many more? Sing wayo, 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 wayo. Heavenly Father, won't you hear my plea? Send a heavy hand for the country. In man, there's no solution. No. I'm begging for the children's future. Oh, Jah, drugs got them by the collar. How can we stop this mind pollution? Why must we carry this load? Too many starving and too many hungry. Too many homeless souls in the city. It seems like there's too many big shots and too much connections. Too many loopholes in Babylon system. But yeah, how can your children go? How many more? How many more must carry this load? How many more? Before we trot Zion Road. Sing with me. How many more?
like that song. The song is very powerful.
Thank you, Flavis.
Very powerful.
Courtney, you were asking earlier.
Yes, I was just talking about like guns because we know that most of these crimes are committed by guns. And as you mentioned it in your song, but in the Caribbean, we don't manufacture guns.
That's right, we don't. And so the question is for every young man to ask themselves, like, why is someone providing me with a gun? It's the most important question. The question is why. Okay? And I'll tell you this. The black male, once again, is under threat. Unfortunately, we do not recognize it because we continue to fool ourselves with all sorts of grandiose ideas about how the rest of the world looks at us. Now, you think about it. The guy who has the gun, if he kills someone, even though he's taken a life, his life is practically over also. Classic example. He either has to be going to hiding for fear of retribution, or he has to run from the law for fear of being incarcerated. Either way, his life is also over. Let's take it a little further. For each young man that we lose to gun violence or any type of violence at all, it means that the continuation of the black race suffers. Because if you don't have young men living, eligible, working, providing, able to provide for families and their women and whoever else, what do you expect a woman to do? She's a woman. She will find love, security elsewhere, which means that over time, if you become less and less desirable, then you can't procreate with her. You become extinct. But we are not thinking. We think about extinction only in terms of the actual guns killing one another and stuff like that. But the extinction comes on two major fronts. And for those people in the world who obviously don't have much respect for us as black men, and who continue to do all sorts of things and put all sorts of things in place to make us less and less desirable to our women, they're winning. And we are becoming what I call willing participants in our own demise. And we're not thinking. You put your chest up in the air and you feel like, yeah, I got a gun. And I said, but you're going to shoot and kill whom? You're killing your brother. You're killing yourselves. So either you get incarcerated, if you're incarcerated, you're no use to your woman and your children. If you're dead, you're no use to your women and children. You're making yourself extinct.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation that I find people are afraid to have. And imagine that we are coming out of what I call a slave society, where the black man was denigrated to start off with, belittled, all sorts of things. And now that we have the opportunity to rebuild ourselves and to take our rightful place within the family structure, we find ourselves now grappling with this particular problem. And nobody, barring nobody, is looking at it from that perspective. All we keep talking about is, You know, it, and this comes up a lot of times. Lots of times the conversation comes up to, oh, how does this affect tourism? How does this affect our capacity to get income and all these things? But it's much wider than that. You know, money don't solve all problems. This is a problem of identity. Marcus Garvey spoke about it. The people who do not have any knowledge of themselves, their history, whatever. These are the things that you do. Because if people understood the history of how we got here, especially the Black man's history, it would be very difficult for a Black man to take up a gun or take up a sword or take up a knife or anything else to constantly be killing one another. Especially for those of us living in the Caribbean. Or have this kind of hatred towards each other. And when you try to dissect it to find out, okay, what are the reasons? But what is it that is so damning between us that we just feel like we need to destroy each other? Nobody can tell you any real plausible reason. But I tell you what, I believe one of the problems we face, another problem that we face that we're not dealing with, that is a breakdown of the family. And it's not just the family consisting of mother, father, children, etc. I'm talking about the wider family, the community, which acted as a family, and where men used to be in charge, unofficially, but in charge of grooming younger men to be what they're supposed to be within the community. I'm sure that you two gentlemen can go back to men who were not your father, or men who were not even relatives of yours, who played a significant role in teaching you how to be a man, talking to you about, you know, simple things that we take for granted these days, about getting a job or getting an ID card, you know, being able to build your own family, to take care of yourself, how to be respectful to other people, and these sorts of things. Without that, and we were poor. People were poor then, extremely poor. So the whole idea that it's just poverty alone doesn't tell the true picture of what we're dealing with. You know, if you ask yourself, do you feel comfortable walking on the streets, wherever you are, and seeing a group of young men? Do you feel comfortable being able to walk up to them and just to say, good afternoon, could you direct me to such and such a place? I'm looking for something. If I ask 1,000 men that question right now in the Caribbean, they'll probably tell me no. Because there is this fear that has come along with all of this violent stuff, of us being able to communicate with each other, young men and older men. You know, and we seriously have to deal with, as you said, Courtney, the importation of these guns. We don't make guns in the Caribbean. So where are they coming from? And who is sending them? And why? The obvious question, the obvious answer would be to destabilize the entire region. And you're targeting young Black men. Let's be real. Let me look at the other social groups that we have among us. Is this problem as prevalent within those groups as there are within us? And I know that there are people who will tell me, oh, but Black people make up the majority of the things, but Black people don't make up the majority of people in the United States of America, but they have the same problem.
Yes.
So you have to start thinking, you have to seriously start thinking about what is happening. Is this happening by coincidence? Or is this happening by design? I lean more and more as I look at the situations towards design. And this is where we need to have very serious conversations amongst ourselves as Black men, first and foremost, before we look for political solutions and all the other solutions that we look for, because those things are needed. Yes, they are. But I'm a firm believer that if you are culturally, morally, ethically strong enough as a man, this problem becomes non-existent, because you would know that when you look across at that other brother, that you see yourself in that person. It's hard for you to want to take up a gun or a knife or whatever it is to kill. But it's becoming very easy for young people to solve their problems by use of violence, which means that we have not passed on a lot of our, I would say, values and ethics and morals. We've not passed them on. And we're paying the price of it now, because what we've done, we've allowed what I call cultural penetration, all kinds of people to send all kinds of things at us, and in the name, especially in the area that I come out of entertainment. You know,
My
I always
thought,
talk about
my
it.
thought,
People
John,
get
my
upset.
thought is that when we allowed quote unquote television in our bedroom, we lost the battle. And if we don't change that fast, in fact, I don't think we have 5% of our television with Caribbean content.
Mhm.
So if we don't get a majority of Caribbean content on our televisions, we can't solve the problem.
I feel and I agree with you on that particular point, that we need more like Caribbean content and things like that. But one of the things that we need is to really to go back to basics. What is it that made us who we are? What are the values? What are the things that the family was based around in the community? What are those things that grounded us? Especially, as you said, Courtney, when we had nothing. We didn't have any riches. We were very poor. What were the things that made the communities what they were? Where people would share, where people would look after each other, where people respected one another. People had respect for life. You know, people were more helpful. Those things don't cost anything.
No, John, just to, talk about this, because this is my experience as a youngster growing up in Jamaica in the 60s. Because, like, the first time I saw a gun, which is not of a policeman, it was a political march.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember that, because my mom, I'm not going to call her political names or parties. My mom used to work with a political organization. And there was a march with the opposite party coming down into the area. And as a little youth, I saw this march and with one of the prominent, who was a prominent leader, ex-prime minister then, was leading this march with a group of men. When I look, I saw one of the guys in the group take out a gun. And I ran to the place where my mom was, because she was working with the organized. I said, Mama, get out of this place quick. You have some people coming and they all have guns and all of that. And they locked down the place quickly, and my mom run out of the place. And I'm saying, You know, growing up, when I grew up now, you know, and I become a teenager, I said, this is political polarization. Now, because they were joining communities that were all, as youth, grew up together, play soccer, do all kind of things in race course, now National Heroes Park. And as soon as that political divide came, you couldn't walk certain places anymore. You couldn't talk to your friends who used to live in a certain area.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even play. Just to put it further, I was going to like an evening school, evening class, and I used to walk through this community. Then after, you know, when the polarization took place, and one of my friends come to me and said, Courtney, don't worry, you know, if I wasn't out here, you're lucky, you're dead. You'd have been killed.
Mm.
And he walked me to the border because you know, they created borders. And he walked me to the borderline and said, don't come back, don't walk through here anymore. So, you know, I just want to, I don't know about other Caribbean islands, but I think in Jamaica, political polarization played a big role and a big part in this.
But regardless of how we look at it, the fact of the matter is that our people are under threat. Imagine the emotional distress. And I said it in the song, that is wreaking havoc upon mothers and grandmothers of people who are slain in these situations. I don't think anyone really can imagine the loss. Children losing fathers, wives, girlfriends losing loved ones, family members, a community losing people, and you're losing 99.9% of the time young men with a lot of life ahead of them, who, if given or placed in the right situation, can make contributions to this Caribbean that we live in. And what worries me is that there seems to be in some quarters, how do I say, a normal, want people to believe that this is normal. You know, that this is a normal occurrence now in the world. Yeah, but if it's a normal occurrence in the world, that doesn't mean it has to become a normal occurrence in the Caribbean. I don't understand that thinking. You know, because at the end of the day, our populations are so small. And like I mentioned to you earlier, if we are losing our young men, very soon, you know, a couple of 100 years, we be wiped out.
Oh yes.
We will be wiped out. And that is the reality that we face. You know, but everybody's skirting around with all kinds of pretty talk. But the real talk, as your podcast is, the real stuff is that the black man will become extinct.
Yeah. But a major problem we're having seen in Jamaica now is that the violence has taken over our schools, primary schools, high schools. I mean, in a major way. You know, I mean, we are going so low now. The age group is getting so low.
One of the things, sorry, Flavius.
Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say that the other thing that we have to seriously look at, and I think this is where all of us must take some blame, is this whole idea of us as men now walking around and having children all over the place.
Oh yes. Oh
and
yes.
not being in there and not being there in their lives in no form, shape, or fashion. We're still acting like slaves on a plantation. That has to stop. It has to stop. You know, this whole idea of, I don't know what you would call it in Jamaica, this idea where we call it village ram. You go around and have as much children as humanly possible and beat your chest, you know, and you feel like, yeah, it's a real man. Steroid, those are slave doings. Those are things that slaves had to do because they couldn't do anything. Slave can buy house, slave can own property, slave can do nothing. The best thing he could do is talk about his size of his penis and talk about how much women that he was able to impregnate for his slave master. He didn't have any other dreams. But 200, near 300 years later, we're still doing the same thing. You know, I always tell people, you know, there are other people who will talk about the size of their condominiums. The black man talk about the size of the condom. It can't work. It cannot work. It cannot work. Yeah, he has to think in a complete different way. And I know it would be difficult because if you have been, how should I say, indoctrinated, you know, to believe that these are the things that make you the man, you know, and this sort of stuff, then you miss out on all the other things that life has to offer. And then you're dropping these children all over the place, no contact with them afterwards. You can't give them any guidance. I mean, we're in a mess. And we as the men, we have to look inward and say to ourselves, like, you know what? How have we contributed to this? How have we contributed to this? And then we gotta start the repair. Because if this continues the way it is, like I said before, and I'm gonna hammer this, and for those persons who might watch and disagree, I'm going to hammer this. We will become extinct. And every other racial group that is in this Caribbean region will become the fathers of the children of black women. I can see it clear as day.
Well,
And
John,
it's not a joke.
yes, in part of the conversation, I see you made a little correlation between grieving and trauma. And I was when you're speaking, I realized grieving is a part of trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, because why I get back to it and what you're saying now is that we did a program on trauma, you know, from the perspective of epigenetics.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying, oh, you know, you talking now just bring a big picture right in front of me.
Yeah.
And as black men, we need to really look deeply and see how, you know, we can come together and organize and really, you know, do something about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not beyond us. It's not beyond us. Look, we have some brilliant men, black men in particular, all across this Caribbean, all across, you know. But as men, we've been taught not to talk, not to share, not to discuss, even when we have traumatic experiences, you know, not to share. That's not manly, you know. That's weak. That's weakness, and that's all these kind of things. But what could be wrong with you being able to say to another man, you know, I'm having difficulties with X, Y, Z. Maybe you just want a sounding board. By other areas, some person may be able to say, brother, this is what you need to do. I got your back. this how I can help you, whatever. And the same thing would trickle down with our younger men, which we should be doing for our younger people within the villages. It's not up to, I keep hearing people saying things like, oh, it's the church, it's the politics, it's the people who are doing extremely well financially within the society. It's all these people must do this and must do the next and must do the third in order to change the situation. But it is more than just those people. It is every single one of us, regardless of your station in life, who feels that everybody don't gotta go on the road and march, because we like a lot of marching and holding hands and singing songs, and that has a role to play in getting off some of the grief and some of the trauma and stuff like that. But we need to have some more interaction, where we really sit down and talk amongst ourselves, as men, and really trash out some of these things. Podcasts like this are fine. It'd be nice if we had people from St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Dominica, all across the Caribbean, where we have forums like this. We can sit down and talk and really share. Because at the end of the day, you will see people saying, oh, men are supposed to take more of a leadership role and these kind of things, but where are we leading our people? Where are we leading them as a group? We have to ask ourselves that very hard question. Where are we leading? Because these young men were not born on their own accord, and they were not raised on their own accord. What are we doing as men? So it's very, and for me it's very difficult, and it's also very emotional, because I spent my early years working at a boys' reformatory school. In fact, I even came to Jamaica, I guess it was around 1989, to do a social work course at the time at Mona. So I've been involved in this dealing with young men almost all my life. Probably that's why I was able to write the song we just listened to. And to see where we've come, and I want to go back to something that Flavius mentioned when he talked about the movies and stuff coming in. I saw in the late 80s and early 90s, more so mid 80s, things, when video tapes became more prominent within Barbados, that people had access to them, right? And we were bombarded with all of these movies, from Boys in the Hood to New Jack City and all of these kind of things. You began to see when that became the standard by which, we would see Black people in America living. And for those of us, we who see ourselves less than the people in the North, we probably began to figure, oh, this is the thing, man. All the fashion comes from the North. So, it's the clothes, it's the language, it's the behavior. But what you were saying was not best of Black American behavior. What is showing you is worse. And we follow it. And we follow it hook, line, and sinker without any discussion, without anything saying, and some people say, man, but it's only entertainment. Yeah, it's only entertainment, but it's also very influential on young minds. If you keep showing them that all the time, without anybody, like I said, without a father or anybody there to say, well, listen, son, this is just a movie, but this is not how you want to live your life. So absence of fathers is a huge problem, to have the kind of interaction with our sons and our nephews and whoever else. We got to own it. We have to own it, and then begin the process of doing what we need to do, as a group.
Yes, John. also you sort of indirectly mention a solution, that solution mean of mentoring,
Yeah, yeah.
and we hardly hear about, having mentoring groups or, men really mentoring younger men or something. So how could, what proposal would you have like to organize such groups, or
So
especially in Barbados?
I'm not a huge fan of a lot of things that have to be organized specifically to do that. What I am a fan of is us being able to go back to some of the basics that we had. Classic example. Growing up, there were sporting clubs all over the place, especially
Yeah.
cricket and football. And you had tiers of age groups within those things, right? So that the youngest of the young coming in would look up to the older guys who probably would have been playing, like, let's say, first division football and aspiring from fourth division to get into the first division team. And you have an informal interaction all the time through sports. But you're also learning how to behave. You're learning how to cooperate with other people. All these things. So social clubs, sporting clubs, church, even, these things play a huge role within communities in shaping young minds. And we've got to get more of those things in. There's an old saying, we've got to get more of those things up and running. But there's an old saying, the devil finds work for idle hands. We have to find things and positive things to get our young men involved, and it must start from primary school. It must start in the primary schools so that is there. You also need, in my humble opinion, more male teachers within the school system. You do. I know it's not the highest paying jobs, and I know a lot of persons would have left it because of the salaries and whatever. But we need to do whatever we need to do to get more men involved in teaching, especially in the primary schools, more than anything else, where it appears as if they're almost non-existent. Because when you have them in primary schools, you're also teaching not just boys, but you're teaching girls also how to interact with men without this being any sexual kind of connotations and all these things. Because another set of the problems that you have is that we're creating a world now where the interactions between males and females become so, how should I say, tainted by a lot of the things that people say. That is, it seems as if we're supposed to be at war all the time. If you go online and you listen to any of these conversations that people are having about relationships between, especially Black people, again, Black men and Black women, it is so combative. And these are no good. Man says the women ain't no use, and women saying the men ain't no use, and all these things. And it's just all part and parcel of the destruction of the family unit and of the community. And these are the things that we need to pay closer attention to, because what you find, I don't know if you're seeing it in your neck of the woods, but oftentimes when you hear people talking about the goals, the sustainable goals and all these things, every time they would talk, whatever it is, they will always come back to mention, and this thing must have women, and this thing must have women, and this thing, if you're doing X amount of things, you must make sure that the girls are involved, and this thing and the next. And there's never any mention about young men in none of the sustainable goals. There's no mention of young men. So the boys are being alienated, not intentionally. I don't think it's intentionally, but it is happening. And we have to look at these things, because the development of girls and women is, don't get me wrong, is extremely important. Extremely important, because if they are operating at their best, we all benefit from it. But at the same time, it must equally be the same for our young men. Because you can see, because they are alienated, this is the results that we are getting now. This is the results we're getting.
Yes, and you mentioned, as you mentioned that, John, there's another aspect to it too, that this alienation and this development of young women has caused also emasculation.
We have to get away from a lot of the old mentality or the old standards of what a man is supposed to be and what I think. But there are some basic things that a human being should be. And those are the ones, those are the things that we need to inculcate into our children, male or female. Those are the things that we need to be able to see themselves in others, to be able to understand that they have a duty to the society within which they are born, to the country, to the region which gives life to their dreams and aspirations. And that they're the ones, when you and I pass on, who have to carry on for the next generation coming after them. And they've got to be more responsible in terms of understanding also the people who went before us, who died with their blood, sweat, and tears, so that we could enjoy the things that we enjoy today. Nobody pays any attention to that aspect either. In fact, people always tell you, when John King, you always talking about history, and you always talking about black people, this and black. I don't know who else they want me to talk about. Is it if they want me to talk about war in Ukraine or Gaza and all these other things? It is really mind-boggling. It really is mind-boggling. We have got to look within, because I know, not I believe, I know that the solutions are within us. But we've got to take the bold step to allow men to begin to be more active in making a lot of the not so much the decisions, but be more active in the lives of their children and in the communities and things like that. It can't be that all a man is good for is to go to work, provide money to our family, and then wait to die when he gets old, and everybody will then put up a flag and say he was a good man, based only on the fact that he was able to provide for a family. It's more than that. It's more than that. Those to me are what I call a lot of the old slave mentality things that have come along with us. And until we begin to tackle those things, we're not gonna get much further. We can talk and talk and talk and talk, but we're not gonna get down to the root of the real thing, because we're not looking at how we got here. If you don't deal with how you got here, then it will remain as it is. I mean, it is painful to watch what the Caribbean has become. I mean, everywhere I travel, I was in Grenada, some months, for Mother's Day, same problem. St. Lucia, same problem. St. Vincent, same problem. Antigua, same problem. And it goes on and on. And I would take this opportunity to beg, I mean, literally beg, the men in these territories, from the parliamentarians to the church to the the cricket clubs, the teachers, the whatever else, that this is a fight that we have to have more conversations like these and start bringing our brightest minds together to deal with it, because we are losing too many young men. And I don't want it to be a situation where it is normalized, like it becomes like, okay, it's no big deal. It is a big deal. And the day that we stop seeing it as a big deal is the day that we've lost everything. And I fear that we are extremely close to that across the region.
Yep, we are. No doubt about that. That we are.
And to really, something just hit me again too, like back in the 80s in Jamaica, when these soap operas started showing in Jamaica.
Mm.
And I don't know if you noticed that, Flavius, that there was a great shift in women's behavior.
Oh, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. From we start allowing the quote-unquote foreign television in our bedrooms, that was it. That was it.
It's what we refer to as cultural penetration.
Oh, yes.
Penetration.
Yeah.
I know Barbados did a lot to keep it away for a long time. Because you were long after us. You took a long time after us, but they still got to you after a while.
Yeah. But again, it is so packaged and sold to you as, quote unquote, entertainment.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But it really is brainwashing. It is brainwashing.
Yeah.
And you have
basically,
to be able...
these national TV stations in different countries, the only thing national about them is sports and news.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, even now, it's worse now because we got TikTok, Instagram, WhatsApp, all of these other things.
Don't even talk about them.
Right. Where, if a person gets, God forbid, shot right now, people are easily are willing to take up a phone and record it and send it all over the place. There's no more feeling within us that this, this is tragedy. Everybody wants to see it.
Oh, yes. Oh,
and
yes.
you see it again, and it is sent 1 million plus times in no time. And people talking about it. And some of the things are gruesome. Real gruesome. And you have to ask yourself, the more we become like robots, insensitive, the more this behavior becomes normalized. And then it reaches the stage where, well, if it's not affecting me, it doesn't exist, or it doesn't matter. And we cannot allow it to get to that. We've got to regain our souls, because I think we've lost our souls, especially us as men. I think we've lost our souls. We must lead. We must lead. And I don't mean it in any disrespectful way to women or to none of that. But we must lead. Must lead. And we are not leading right now.
Nope.
And it's not just in terms of political leadership and that kind of things. We must be the ones that set the standards for what a young man, when he becomes a man, that rite of passage. We have to set the standards, the behavior that they learn. In Bible, I would think it was Jesus who said when he was a boy, he did boyish things. When he became a man, he put away boyish things. We have to go back to that. If those words could be attributed to Jesus, then who are we not to be able to do the same thing? He got put away boyish things, learn to settle differences in a complete different way. When we for primary school, we fight, fix and kick and bite and fight and whatever to settle things. Yeah, that's boyish things. When you become a man and you understand the sanctity, if you want to use that word, of life, you realize that we can settle things without damaging each other physically, mentally, or any other way, reputation, any other way. You know, we rather than feeding ourselves with all of these things now, like they show you every 5 minutes, or some entertainer somewhere in the world having all of these sex parties and this thing and that. There's everybody talking about it. We in the Caribbean, we got more important things to deal with than to be on a phone or a tablet looking at what's happening in the entertainment world in America and following American values and all these kind of things. They keep talking about it. You know, how can you follow people who are basically, and let me be real, you know, nearly 100 years behind you in terms of their development. You know, when you look across to North America and you realize that in the 1960s, black people still fighting for the right to vote. And then that lifestyle is what you're sending to me for me to follow it. But that's like me going behind something that I already in front of. I've been in front of it for years. Or even now, you could go on anything and you hear young black people in the States now discussing the whole idea of owning a piece of land as if this is a big monumental breakthrough in life. These are things that we've been doing in the Caribbean from one generation to the next.
Oh, yes.
We know that everybody they try and get a piece of the rock. You understand that this is a good investment. That is where you can build from. Simple little things. But you're feeding me now all sorts of nonsense to dumb me down. Yeah, and we have to be a bit, and we are responsible for the things we watch. We're responsible for the things we digest. We are the ones who are responsible for that. Not anybody can send you anything, but we have to be the ones who are able to say to our young men within the, like I said again, the primary schools, on the playing fields, in the church, wherever. Yes, you should be able to look at anything and make a wise decision as to what is for you and what is not for you because of where you live. When you have a strong culture, you can do that. When you allow other things to dictate what is culture, quote unquote, for you, then you have a problem. And that is the problem. That is part and parcel of the problem that we have. We're not strong enough to say, this is not who we are. It's not how we behave. We don't need the guns. We don't fight wars. You know, when you really stop and think about it, the wars that were fought in the Caribbean, it's amazing. Were not by slaves. Were not by us. We ended up being in the wars, but we were not the ones who started the wars in the Caribbean. You know, the place where we should be looking to and saying this is the kind of war that if we gotta fight wars that we want. Fight Haiti. We fought for freedom and justice and the right to be human. But now, right now, we fighting all sorts of wars that don't make no sense among our young men. Don't make no sense.
Fighting
Don't make any
ourselves.
sense. None. Doesn't make any sense at all. And we are losing them. And we're going to continue to lose them until we get serious about reclaiming who we are as a people, especially in this region. You know, I was so proud, you know, the other day when you saw at the Olympics, you know, every time a Caribbean athlete had success, you could feel the vibration from the north to the south. You could feel it.
Oh yes.
Right?
Oh yes.
You could feel it, you know, and it doesn't matter which island they came from, you could feel it. Those are the things that we should be promoting. Those are the things that we should be able to tell our young men that you too can be part of that, of being able to make the people in the region feel good. You know, that's why when I get passionate about things like this, sorry to go off for a little while, but I gotta say this too. A winning West Indies cricket team does the same thing.
Oh, yes.
Those are our, when we had the winning teams, who were the people playing? Our young men. For 15 years.
Oh yes.
Our young men gave everybody, I'm sure for you, Flavius, and for you, Courtney, if you have friends in England, you'd know how they felt when that West Indies team came to England to play cricket.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
You feel different. You walk different, talk different, behave different. You walk with a certain amount of West Indian pride. And that is what we need our young men to feel. That when they do the things that are right, that they're contributing to that West Indian pride that makes us who we are. Listen, I tell people all the time, we are the most outstanding part of the planet. But we don't even begin to understand how important we are. Just think about this one small thing. Have you ever heard within any of these Caribbean islands that there were civil wars, ethnic wars, because this person is of Indian descent and this person is of European descent and this person of African descent, so they're fighting all the time and killing one another and all these kind of things? Never. We are a model of how people from all parts of the world can live together without all of the other problems that other parts of the world have. I mean, our Prime Minister would always call it a zone of peace. It has to go back to being that.
That's a major point. Yeah. It's a major point.
It has to go back to being that. We are the example that the rest of the world should follow. But rather than remain the example, we are now on the crux of joining the madness.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with standing out. But if you don't have a certain amount of self-esteem and self-belief, you will always feel that you have to be a part of all the other things that might look like in fashion in other parts of the world. You don't want to be like that. We want to be who we know ourselves to be. Some of the most loving, some of the most peaceful, some of the most friendly, some of the most creative people you can find anywhere on the planet.
Oh, yes.
I mean, when you stop and you think, we've taken, look at all of the Caribbean countries, all, not one and not the other, all, right? All of us were left after we got, quote unquote, independence with absolutely nothing. Nothing. Nothing for development, nothing. And we took what little we had and turned it into a place where people from all over the world want to come and enjoy it. And we do not even give ourselves credit for that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So we got a lot of work to do.
So, okay, John, you know, we've talked a whole lot about the violence, you know, for young people in the Caribbean. And, you know, we're running out of time. So
Yep.
can you just give us a little summarize for us and we'll just close out?
All right. So first, let me say thanks, guys, for giving me an opportunity to have this chat with you. For those persons watching, really appreciate it. But I think it's time for the ladies who've been watching in the audience to have a conversation with your husband, with your boyfriend, with your uncles, with your nephews, with your whoever, the male that you come into contact with, about joining in to this movement to save our young men. You know, when a ship is sinking, you hear people say SOS, save our souls. But this one is save our sons, and we have to do it. And it's going to take a monumental effort from all of us. You know, we got to put aside all of the differences that you have, all of the things, and start brainstorming and putting things in place to save our sons. Is it going to be easy? No. Can it be done? It most certainly can. We have done things in the past with little or nothing. And we like I said, we've turned these islands into a place where the rest of the world wants to come and enjoy and visit and do all these things. Let's do the same thing for our young men so that they can contribute. And I mean contribute in a real serious way to the development of this region. They have it within them, but we have to round up. We're going to take some harsh decisions in some cases. It has to be, but whatever it is that we need to do, we have to do it now because we are on a very slippery slope and the room margin for error is extremely thin. So again, I just want to encourage all of you, do not give up hope. Don't throw your hands up in the air and say nothing can be done. Whatever you can do in your own small way, one person at a time, we will get it done. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. Yes.
And
All
I
right.
think we should actually continue this conversation another
Yes,
time.
we should. Yes, we should. And I would encourage you to try to see if you can find some of our brothers on some of the other islands and stuff. And because it's always good to
We'll
have
do. Yes, we'll
wider,
do.
wider
Yes.
perspectives.
Yes.
Once we have this, because I can learn something from you and you can learn something from me. And that's how we do it.
Definitely.
Yes, because you know, there's a portion that we didn't even get into, and I think maybe we can look at it next time we speak.
Okay.
Drug addiction
Yes.
Oh,
And-
yes.
Yes, definitely.
and
So
this violence, you know, that is
you
taking place among our
you
young
let
people.
me know. You let me know when you want to do it. And with your permission, I would try to see if I can find someone on this end who is a specialist dealing with that I could introduce you to.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah.
Definitely. Please do.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, guys.
Okay.
Thank you
God
very much.
Bye, John. Bye, Senator. Yes, so that's it from the Read Stuff podcast.
You lead us to full. You belong far away away. Ajugwala lebo buseru. Lida mua, lida sungfula. Lida mua, lida sungfula.
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.
All you gotta do is just speak. One word is enough, and I'm no longer so rough. I forget what I was trying to say. I no longer do what I was gonna do, but you're no good for me. That's why me do what set me I think of flee. Me I fi take away me say. Me I fi take away me say. Me I fi hide like a thief in the night. Me I fi get out the side. Me I fi take away myself. I fi take away myself. I have to utilize I will.